There once was a guy called Cappy, and then they did some internet stuff, and then he died. Hello, Mr. Cleary. How much for a video about the types of motorcycles you own and the different places you have ridden? It would be cool to see what type of bikes you have and where your favorite rides have been. I used to street ride. I'm looking to get back into it. Oh, okay. Well, this will be, like I told you, it would be meandering. And I'll just go over the motorcycles I have owned. My first motorcycle was this piece of crap Honda that my soy boy Democrat friend recommended I get. And this is when I was brand new. Gas prices really high in 2004. I can't remember what it was, but there was rot on the tires. The brake cables were almost, it was just a horrible, it was a death trap. I'm surprised it didn't. And the carb, the fuel system was all gunked up, and it was horrible. So that I owned for like maybe 2 months, and I got rid of it. Then I got a 2000 baby Ninja, a Ninja 250. I have to say, I think that was probably my favorite bike overall. Not for riding, it was very uncomfortable. It got like 58 miles a gallon. If I didn't have anyone on the back, I could pretty much get up any mountains. And that thing served me very well until I blew a head gasket out by Split Rock in the middle of nowhere, Wyoming. Atham looked that up. I nursed it back to town on one cylinder. Then I got a Ninja 636, and that was the fun one. That was the crotch rocket. I drove that all the way from Buffalo, Wyoming, down to Phoenix, down the west side of the Rockies, and back up the east side of the Rockies. That's how I discovered Cortez, which is a great town, Cortez, Colorado. Check it out. Lots of fun thing to do there. And then what did I get? God, did I get my cruiser then? I rented a Shadow 750 and drove that to Alaska and back, and I cannot recommend not to get a Shadow 750 enough. That Honda shell was horrible. Had no power, had no torque. Yeah, I think, and then I got my cruiser bike. I bought a cruiser bike down to Sarasota, Florida, drove it all the way to Puerto Penasco, Mexico, then hopped over to San Diego, then dropped it off in Vegas and drove that thing all the way back to Minneapolis. And that is a 2007 Honda VTX, which is a little big for me, but very comfy. I can handle it just fine, but it's a little bit bigger. The one I like the most for cruising is the one I have here in the Southern Command, and I don't know the year, but it's an older Honda Sabre, which is the upgraded version of the Shadow. It's got an 1100 engine, and that's a little bit smaller, but I can put someone on the back. I can do that with my cruiser bike back in Minneapolis, but this is a smaller cruiser bike, so it fits me a little bit better. Can certainly put someone on the back. Has plenty of power to get up on the mountains, even without the air up in the mountains, and does not have the lack of torque or power that the 750 has. And they're all cheap. They're all used. I don't think I've ever spent more than $5,000 on a bike. And I have managed to put about 30,000 miles on each bike. I've pretty much ridden them into the ground. When I donated, I was going to trade in my motorcycle for street credit for store credit at Street Bikes. It's a company. And they looked at it like, dude, you've taken this thing to the like. There's nothing we could maybe part it out barely. Like, we would give you like maybe $500. I'm like, oh, okay, fine. So that was it. Now, where I drove, where has Cappy gone? Let me pull up. Let's look up Kansas City, Kansas, because that's pretty center to the country. And I'll tell you where Cappy has gone. Some of which I've already given away based on where I'd pick up a bike and ride it. Come on, computer. There we go. Zoom out. Okay, no particular order. Hands down, my best ride was riding from Minneapolis out to Hyder, Alaska. Went from Minneapolis to Regina, Saskatchewan, then over to Calgary. Banff, Jasper, through Prince George, past Kitwanga to Smithers, then Kitwanga, and then Hyder, Alaska. Turn around, headed back, dropped down through Washington State to the north. I think it was Highway 2 north of Spokane. Then I drove into Kellogg, Idaho. That's where I met the girl who had a staph infection on her lip. It was really gross. She was a hippie, a dirty hippie from Seattle, where all dirty hippies come from. And then drove back home via Wyoming. I have done every major ride in the Black Hills of South Dakota. I have took my crotch rocket from Wyoming down to Phoenix, Arizona and back. When I bought my bike in Florida, I rode it all the way across 10 to Mexico, not New Mexico, Mexico, and then also San Diego, and then Vegas. And then I drove that back all the way to Minneapolis, stopping in Moab, going through Monument Valley. And that was the worst ride of my life because it dropped down to 37 degrees and it was raining. As a snowstorm had gone through Zion and turned to rain. Thankfully, not snow, as I was heading into Moab. And that was miserable. I've ridden from Vegas to visit Atham, where I also got stood up by Rollo in Reno. Then I cut over to Boise, Idaho. Then I went up to Leavenworth, Washington to visit TJ. Went down over Chinook Pass because I wanted to avoid, I have to look it up. I wanted to avoid Seattle. Then I did 101 all the way down to Salem, cut over by Salem, and then headed back to Las Vegas. Oh, and then I did a motorcycle ride from Minneapolis down to Raleigh, North Carolina. I went down the Mississippi River, which was the most beautiful part of that trip. Even more beautiful than Smoky Mountain National Park. Went to Raleigh, North Carolina, drove up to DC, visited Vince and the gang and all that, and then rode all the way back home via Chicago, where one day it was 80 degrees and sunny and beautiful. Wonderful ride. Made it up to Wisconsin to visit my dad, and then the next day it dropped down to 31 degrees, and I drove home in that miserable condition, and it was really bad. Obviously, I've driven all over Minnesota and western Wisconsin. Yeah, and those are my major rides. Those are the major rides. I drove all over Wyoming too when I lived out there, obviously. Fun ride is from Buffalo, Wyoming over to Ten Sleep. You go over the Bighorn Mountains and you try to do it in under half an hour, which is a little dangerous. Hopefully there's no cops along the way. Go very fast. Yeah, and then, I mean, those are my longer rides. I haven't really done any medium rides. And I've seen most of the cool stuff in the country. That's for certain. That's about it. All right. Any super chats? Aaron, here's money to talk about yourself. Oh, all right. That's it. All right. Questions, answers, assholeconsulting.com. We'll see you guys later, tools.